religious liberty, the right to be wrong. The Right to be Wrong is actually a book written by Seamus Hassan, who started the Beckett Fund, which is a public interest law firm. And it was the first thing I decided to read when I entered this area of law after practicing corporate law for 6 years. And it really struck a chord with me because it articulates the idea that one doesn't have to be a relativist to believe passionately in religious freedom. And I think that's important. I actually think that it's a better argument, not being a relativist, because it allows me to say, or I don't have to say as a relativist, because all religions are correct or right, one should choose, or one can choose from them. I can say, even if I disagree with a person on their religion, on the things that matter the most, on the things that are, the deepest of differences, that I can passionately believe that that person has the right to choose that and the right to be wrong. And I think this is important because most of the religions claim to believe the truth, sometimes to the exclusion of the others. So to me, to try and wash away the conflict among religions by just saying they're all true is kind of unrealistic. The more important question to me is, how do we live together in a pluralistic society of religions that claim to believe the truth peacefully? And I think that that question has never been more relevant than it is today, because the United States has an unparalleled level of diversity religiously than it's ever had in its history. So how we coexist together really comes down to acknowledging and even advocating for another person's right to be wrong. So the Williamsburg Charter is struck me as a very important document, and I'm just becoming familiar with it as somebody who's new to this area of law after practicing corporate law for 6 years. And one of the reasons I appreciate it so much is because it talks about the sort of inherent rights of people to have religious liberty. And to me, what that means is that religious liberty is a natural right, which means that it's not derived by governments or society or something that the ruling power gives us, that it's inherent to who we are as human beings, that, as I believe, it's endowed to us by our Creator. But as others can believe, it's just inherent in nature. So a person's freedom of conscience, or their freedom to choose their religion, about the significance and meaning of life, is so inherent to the natural order of the world that it's what I would consider a natural right. And I think this is important because it acknowledges that the government doesn't give it to us. It doesn't tolerate it. It's not something that the government can take it away because it didn't give it to us. And this seemingly philosophical distinction came to real life in one of my favorite stories about philosophy coming to real life in 1776, when the state of Virginia created the Declaration of Rights and stated its support for the fullest toleration in the exercise of religion. And a young, passionate state legislator named James Madison didn't like it. And he didn't like it because it was inaccurate. He didn't think that the government tolerated religious freedom. That implied that the government gives it and could take it away. Madison said this is inherent to who we are as human beings, so he pushed for a change in the language from the fullest toleration in the exercise of religion to all men are entitled to the full and free exercise of religion. And I think, and his change won the day, and I think that's important, and I'm glad that it did.
We are so thankful for our religious and civil liberties specialists who are working with us to make sure that this great American experiment continues, where we live together in our differences. You too can become a constitutional and human rights specialist focusing on religious freedoms. Check out religiousfreedomcenter.org to learn more and to apply for graduate level courses in the First Amendment. Join us again next week for another episode of 5 Minutes of Religious Freedom.